good evening. On behalf of Veterans of Politics International, I want to thank you for coming in this evening. This endorsement interview is being sponsored by Patsy Brown, candidate for Clark County Public Administrator. Just to give you an overview of this process, the panel members will introduce ourselves with a 30-second introduction. Then the candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to respond, to do the intro. Sorry. And then please keep in mind it's not a debate, so you can't debate yourself, since you were the only one brave enough to come in, so we appreciate that. And once a panel member asks you a question, you'll be given 1.5 minutes to respond to our questions, roughly. And we got time. Yeah, and I won't be rude and interrupt you. And at the end of that question and answer period, we'll give you 2 minutes for a closing. Okay. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Jim Jonas. I'm the Director of Veterans of Politics. And I also co-host the podcast with Steve Sanson.
My name is Talicia Sandoval. I've been on a couple of these so far, and I look to run in the future, and I'm happy to be here.
I am Leah Yulianti. I am the president of Active Republican Women of Las Vegas, a business owner and esthetician.
My name is Jacqueline Alvidrez. I moved here 7 years ago with my fiance, John Cardiff Gerhardt. And I mean, we've lived here for 7 years, and over time, I've slowly seen the community degrade, and there's been a lot of problems, I think, that the community has suffered, basically morally, spiritually, economically, and I didn't want to sit on the sidelines anymore and not do anything, so I decided to run to help make some changes in the community. So, yeah.
All right, thank you, and I apologize about that. Just a brief question, real quick. Unfortunately, one of the things that Veterans in Politics we're really focused on, right, is educating the voters. Mm-hmm. So if you could just do me a favor and just give a definition of what a Nevada State Senate district member does, and then also, if you wouldn't mind giving an overview of your area.
Okay, so I am in Senate District 21, and then what a Senate representative does is biannually they'll go to Carson City, and then they'll start to introduce different bills and stuff, and if the bill gets introduced, then the House and the Senate will vote on this bill, and if it gets approved, then it'll move to the governor and he can sign it into law, and if he doesn't approve it, he can ask for amendments, and then it goes back to the House, and then they can make those amendments, and then if it gets approved again, then basically it'll get passed into law.
Okay, and then the boundaries of your district.
I don't know the boundaries of my district 21. It's
right, just roughly. I know it's a tough question to answer because it's gerrymandering and redistricting gets a little crazy, but just roughly what part of Nevada encompasses District 21?
So we got parts of Henderson, East Las Vegas, and I mean, yeah, that's basically it. District 12 and parts of District 14, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Assembly. So since you are the only one here, I would like to know what sets you apart from everybody else. What do you feel that you are going to make a difference in the most? If you want to pick your top 3 things that you'd like to change in your district, or however you'd like to format that. You don't really have any opponents in front of you.
Well, I don't know how I'm different from them because I haven't really researched them, but my top 3 initiatives is the first one. I want to focus on making gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies legal tender. We do have a problem with inflation. The central banks have been printing money and diluting our purchasing power. So this is why we're seeing an increase in prices. And I want to offer solutions for a community to diversify their wealth out of fiat currencies, because I mean, if we go into hyperinflation, we're going to see massive chaotic problems. So I'd like to make these things legal tender because it's sound money and it's a better hedge than a collapsing fiat currency. The second thing is I want to focus on more self-reliance. We are in a food desert. We don't focus on growing any food, so I'd like to offer resources for people to start growing food in their backyards, maybe move back to something similar in the 1940s where they had victory gardens, so like community gardens and stuff, so we can start growing more food. If we do have all these food shortages coming, then food is also going to be a problem. So I do want to focus on educating the community to start being more self-reliant and growing their own food. And third is focusing on bringing back or helping small businesses by removing unnecessary like regulations. I think that we have a lot of government overreach in basically telling people what to do and extorting businesses. So I'd like to go in and start removing regulations that are not benefiting businesses and also the community.
What can you do to help promote small businesses in your district?
Well, I think if we have maybe like a community type of newsletter, the voter data does offer sometimes emails and voter phone numbers. So if there's a way that we can make some sort of like marketing, text marketing to promote businesses in the area, also maybe hold more like community gatherings where businesses can get together at like booths and basically showcase their services and products. That's all I can think of right now.
So when I was talking about opponents, not just the people that would be running for the same seat, but we're also talking about the incumbent, right? We're talking about the person that's currently in office and what they're not doing in your eyes, or they're not doing enough of, that you plan to come in and change.
Well, I think he lacks good leadership. There are a lot of people that were concerned, especially over the last 2 years, about COVID things. They basically enforce, in my opinion, mandates that are not constitutional. It infringed on people's happiness and security, and that's part of their rights. If they're going to infringe on those, then I don't think they should be in power. And also, it's just like they were extorting businesses. So if they didn't follow these mandates, they were fined, and they were basically told that they would have their licenses removed if they didn't follow what Sisolak said. So he helped push that agenda, and I'm against that. I think it really destroyed our community.
Okay, so my question would be, when you're elected, what's the first budget draft request that you would propose for the state of Nevada?
Well, I don't have an answer for that question because I haven't actually done the research on what it entails. I'm currently going through the Constitution and reading all of the things that are necessary.
No, that's fine. And once you get elected, there's a process where they'll show you exactly how to propose them. So not so much exactly how you propose it, but what would be a proposal that you would like to see become Nevada law to help District 21?
Oh, well, the first thing would be to legalize gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies, because I think that it would be a good hedge against inflation. So, I mean, if we can do things to educate the public on how to invest in these things or how to diversify their wealth, I think that would be a good first step.
Okay.
So I have one of my board member wanted me to ask this question, right? So Nevada has the greatest potential for solar power in the entire country, right? What legislation can you support to promote solar power? I mean, look at how high, how much we're paying for the electricity. Imagine if we can, you know.
Well, the electricity problem right now is because of the cost of oil. So if we actually did more domestic oil production, that price would be lower. In terms of legislation for doing more solar, I believe that we already have some enacted. Nevada this year it has to have at least, I think, 26%. And then by 2050, it has to be 50%. So they're already putting those measures where we have to go green. I know that we do have a lot of land. A lot of that land is owned by the federal government. So if we can take some of that land back and maybe tax the federal government, then we can fund building solar panels. So.
Okay, so my next question, I know government by nature is inefficient and you yourself are not going to be able to fix that.
Right.
But we got to start somewhere, right? So the last legislative session in the state of Nevada, there was 185 NRS statutes passed.
Thanks.
Three of them in the first 58 days. But then all of a sudden, 182 get passed in the last 2 days. What would you do to push your peers to say, hey, like, what's going on here? Like 3 in 58 days? That seems like a waste of taxpayer dollars to me. Like, why are you sitting around for 58 days and then you're rushing 182 bills through in the last 2 days?
Oh, right. They should probably do it like a bill a day. I doubt they probably read through all the bills. I don't know how long the bills are. I mean, if you go through certain bills, they're pages and pages, and I don't think they should be over 10 pages to make it more efficient to people to actually go through them. I also don't think we should be creating so many laws. We should also focus on getting rid of some. So it's like, if you make a law, maybe get rid of 2 that are inefficient. Yeah, I mean, I think that if they're not doing the job right, then they shouldn't be there. They should be going through all these bills efficiently. And I mean, if they waited the last minute just to kind of vote and they didn't even go through them, then I think that's like bad leadership, because you don't even know what's in the bill. So you might be passing things that are harming the community as a whole, which I think has happened.
If the Democrat maintain the majority in the Nevada legislature, what can you do to be most effective to promote conservative values?
Well, I am running as a Democrat, and I do feel like I have a lot of conservative values. And I would say most people do. There's only like a select minority that have like really extreme left-leaning or extreme like right-leaning values, and the majority of people are in the middle. So for me, it's like, I don't see the problem with working with Republicans or even convincing Democrats to work with Republicans, because we're all there to serve the people. We're not there to serve our own personal agenda. If they're there because of that, then they shouldn't be there. So the first focus and priority is to serve people and not go off of some vendetta that it's, oh, this party's bad or this party's bad. I don't think, honestly, I don't like the parties. I think that it's creating a lot of division. And I think that we kind of need to set that aside and just look at what's happening at our community as a whole and work to help the Nevadan people and not focus on hating some other party because they think differently than you.
First and foremost, I would like to say that I commend you for that greatly, because I think that that's something that we lack in terms of political stature and status, because they get to the top and they, oh, well, only this party matters and only that party matters. But the realistic reason that they even got into it to begin with was for the people. And so I commend you for that. Yeah, of course. I would like to get onto the topic of education. As we know, we have one of the worst school systems in the country. And I would like to know what your initiative is. And obviously this can't be done with just you alone, but what your initiative is to reverse, one, the effects of COVID, because obviously that has exacerbated everything further, but to help fix the issues that have been ongoing in the Clark County School District.
Well, I think we need to remove all of the COVID mandates. I don't think that parents should also be forced to vaccinate their kids if they don't want to with the COVID-19 vaccine, and they should be allowed to go to school. They shouldn't have to wear a mask because, I mean, children, when they're developing, facial recognition is something very important. So if they're wearing masks, it's like you're probably going to create a society of like sociopaths or something because they can't read like body language or facial like cues. Yeah, cues. Yeah. Thank you. So I think we need to get rid of those in terms of education. I mean, we were supposed to be getting a lot of money from like the marijuana tax. So it's like, where did that money go? I think, first of all, we need to have more transparency and see exactly where all of that money is going, because it could be like laundered or something. It could just be going into people's pockets and it's not doing anything, I mean, to fix it. Supposedly, this money was supposed to go to help the education system, and it's only gotten worse. And I think it's like since all the COVID stuff has happened, you've had like an increase of like violence in the schools, and it's just like the children, they need help, and all of this government overreach isn't helping them. So I think we really need to see where all of this money is going and talk to the parents, because I mean, the parents are the ones that are in charge of their kids. That's their responsibility. So they would know what is best for their children.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. How do you think that your views and your stance on masks and vaccine mandates and all of that will uphold with your constituents? Running as a Democrat, I know that there's a lot of people in office and a lot of people in that party who would greatly disagree with you. Sisolak is one of them, right? Mm. And, you know, maybe not after this term, but we'll see. But the thing about that is that when you're running with that party and you're going completely against what they want, how do you think that you'll hold up when you get there?
Well, I'm not trying to please the politicians. I want to do what's best for the community. So if we have disagreements, then that's fine. Like, I respect their beliefs and they should respect mine. So if we have those disagreements, I think we can talk about them like civilly. And then if we agree to disagree, then that's fine.
Okay. Well, for once, I can honestly say I feel like I'm the dumbest guy in the room. Okay. So as far as the marijuana money goes, there was $184 million that came into the state that was generated from marijuana money the last year. 72 million actually did go to education. The problem is the 112 million, you know where it went?
No.
The general fund. And no one knows where it went. So my question to you is, if you get elected, will you be willing to work with other people in the legislature to reform the federal fund to at least make it more transparent? So we know where that $112 million went.
Of course, there should be an open ledger for every Nevadan to look at. So they should be able to see, like we have the technology where we can have a website where Nevadans could log in and see where all the money is going. The fact that we don't have that now is suspicious to me, and I think it's just hiding more corruption. So it's just like a lot of this money is being money laundered, and they don't want you to know where it's going. So we really need to fix that issue and have it open so every Nevadan could log in and see where all of these funds are going.
Okay, so my next question is just kind of a general one. Why get involved in politics? I mean, I commend you for doing it because so many people are like, oh, that's a dirty word. Or they say, oh, I'm not a politician, and that drives me crazy. But why get involved? Why run? Because running for office is brutal. I mean, you don't sleep. It's exhausting. Why? What is your passion? What drives you to want to do this?
Well, I love to help people. And I mean, I start by helping my closest friends and my family. And I don't see why I can't extend that to my community. I mean, I try to do my best to help the community wherever I can. And I see that it's hurting, and it's been hurting for a long time. And it's just like I see all these people, I talk to them, and it's just like they all have all these issues that stem from the government being inefficient and corrupt. So it's like, am I going to be able to fix it? I don't know, but I'm going to do my best to do what I can to serve the Nevadan people.
Are you part of any nonprofit organization?
No.
Okay.
Okay, my next question. I just have a ton of questions all the time. So here's the thing about education. So yes, the Clark County School District is not good if you rank it nationally. But the Clark County School District doesn't reflect the entire state. Mm-hmm. So when people talk about how we're 49th in education or 50th, I've heard all these different numbers. Why is it that they only pick on Clark County? And what specifically could you do to address Clark County is not the only county with an education issue in this state. Mm-hmm. The rest of the counties aren't really good either, especially Washoe. What could you do to maybe not pass a bill, but to influence your peers to look not specifically just at Clark County, but the rest of the state as a whole?
So basically you're saying that all of Nevada's education is bad, and it needs to be addressed, not just Clark County. So I think they focus on Clark County because Clark County does make up the majority of the population in the state of Nevada. So that's one of the biggest places they can take numbers from. But in terms of education, I think that we also need to focus on the people that are teaching the kids. A lot of them sometimes are not passionate, and they're just there because it's a paycheck. And we also need to look at the curriculum. I think that needs to be addressed as well. For a long time, we've gone only to like certain companies to get like textbooks and all this stuff. I think it needs to be more of a like free market where you can get information from anywhere and also utilize the internet more. It's like there's so many educated people online that can teach you things for free, and I don't think that the education system really dives into helping that. And I also think that we can offer something maybe like a civic center or something where even the community could go in to do continual like education where it's like free. So yeah, in terms of like focusing, I think the reason that they just focus on Clark County is because it makes up the majority of the population in Nevada.
So, sorry, that was really loud. So when I recently just graduated from high school in 2021, and even throughout my dad's school, his education, K through 12, there's always going to be teachers who are just there for the paycheck. And the number one school district in the country, there's going to be teachers that don't really care, or they're not super passionate. And I've had some teachers like that, but I've also had some amazing ones as well. I don't think that is one core issue. I think that is a contributing factor, but what would you say that the core issue of, let's just say, for instance, Clark County, that why we're struggling so much?
Well, I think the federal government has too much overreach in our curriculum. So it's like they decide what the teachers have to teach. The school board is like, you can only teach this or this or this. And I mean, there's certain subjects where it's just like, I believe the parents should be teaching those. But in terms of like history, science, and math, and like the core, like what school's supposed to actually teach you, we need, like I said, a more free market system, because it's just like we're just getting the same old textbooks, and people, it's just like, if you're reading a textbook, it could get really boring. And there's a lot of children that also have like ADD and things like that, and they learn differently. So there are people that are better at listening, or people that are better at visually learning. So I think that the schools could do a better job at focusing on those kids' needs, on how they actually learn, and focus classrooms based on those types of learning. So if you're a visual learner, then you have more visual type based classes. If you like listening, then you have more like listening based classes. So we really need to focus down on the student and focus on their needs and their wants and what they're actually passionate about. Because if they're just going to school and they're not passionate about learning or anything, then it's just like, it's basically like a daycare. They're not going to want to push themselves. So you should really focus on what the kid's passion is, and then put them in the direction and give them the classes that will help nurture that passion. And I think that would improve the system greatly.
Well, thank you. I have just one last question. When you get elected, some of your answers that you've said this evening are very impressive. And it's obvious that you have a lot of passion and drive. Once elected, what will you do to get younger people involved and to community outreach, to reach out to people, to let them know how government works?
Well, I'd like to utilize the voter data for this. So we have everybody's residential addresses and their phone numbers. Well, not everybody lists their phone numbers, but we can send out mailers to the constituents to learn about things that are going on in the community, bills that are going to be passed if they oppose it. Like, we should also have like polls where it's like the community could chime in and say, like, do you think this is like a good bill to pass or whatever? Like, we should have more of the community having their input in what we do, because it's mostly like politicians gathering and meeting each other and not actually like talking to the community. So we can send out mailers, we can send out text, and yeah, just have like a place where they can come together and talk. I think that once you get elected, a lot of the times you really separate yourself from the community, when you should actually be actively involved and going and still continuing to talk to all of your constituents, because you're there to represent them.
The last question from me. Do you have any in your family or friends, anyone in military, and how have they influenced your life?
No, I don't, but I do respect the military. I think that they do a great job serving this country. I do think that when our vets return, there could be things that can be improved in terms of like their mental health. And a lot of the times it's like I see a lot of homeless people on the street, and every time I see one, it's like I do what I can and I give them a couple bucks and stuff, and I tell them like, thank you for your service. And I mean, just recently, I don't know if this is true, but is it true that the vets that came back from Vietnam never actually got like an official like welcome home?
Yes, that is true.
Okay, so like I think that's sad that the federal government basically enlists people and then kind of tosses them aside when they find no use for them anymore. So it's just like, I think that's terrible. Another thing with with the vets is whenever you're in like a military type routine, it's like your body and your mind gets accustomed to that. So whenever you come home and you don't have something to kind of replace that structure or routine, it could actually have a lot of effect on your mental health. So I think that the federal government or the military complex should do a better job at maybe giving these vets like jobs in the military complex that like they want, or focusing on helping them make businesses or things like that. So then that way they have like this continual routine.
Okay, so I do have one more question. So as a state senator, you can't really do anything about this necessarily on a state level. But as a state senator, you're going to have communication with other congressional leaders within the state and U.S. senators as well. You brought up a really good point. One of the issues that is a real problem with veterans right now is transitioning back into civilian life, right? Mm-hmm. The only branch of military that really has a somewhat effective program is the Air Force. Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to look into that and to actually communicate with the other 4 congressional leaders in the state of Nevada and the 2 senators to actually try to push for that issue for veterans?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Okay. Well, with that being said, then I'll go ahead and give you your 2 minutes to close. Oh. I'll make sure you you look into the camera and give all your campaign information as well and contact information. Okay.
Well, my name is Jacqueline Alvidrez. I'm running for Senate District 21, and that one. I was looking at that one over there. And yeah, my website is gojackie.org. And I mean, if you want to reach out to me, you can on my website. And yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, that concludes our endorsement interview for Nevada State Senate District 21.
Thank you very much.